Hold on to your seats because I'm about to share with you something incredible. Hidden within the Passover festival contains Torah prophecy, a hidden Bible code about the times we're in today, about the rebirth of Israel and everything that we're seeing. And I want to show you how. Passover is, of course, the Jewish festival, Pesach, that Jews around the world are going to be celebrating. Now, to explain this and where this comes from, this is something I want to read to you an excerpt from Rabbi Benjamin Blech's brilliant book on Passover, where he explains this incredible Torah prophecy and code. But briefly, before I explain it to you, I want to give you a little bit of background to a word in Hebrew called Atbash. Atbash is a way of deciphering codes within Torah. So the way to explain it in English, it's like a way of deciphering letters and words and phrases, is connecting the word A, let's say if we were to do it in English, it would be connecting A with the last letter to Z and B with Y and so on and so forth. So the way it works in Hebrew is with, as you can see here, there's the Aleph on the right, which is the first letter, and then Taf, which is the last letter. So those two would be connected. The Bet would be connected with the Shin, and so on and so forth. The word Atbash is because if you were to spell the Aleph, the first letter, with the last letter, Taf, it would be At, and then the second letter, Bet, with the second last letter, Shin, would be Bash, so Atbash, right? So it's quite straightforward there. Now, let me explain to you how this relates to Passover, because it's just really remarkable. Okay, so let's read this excerpt. Okay, so he says, Rabbi Blech says, with regard to Passover, it was Rabbi Yosef Karo in his classic work of the Shulchan Aruch, which is one of the most well-known codes of Jewish law. And he formulated a remarkable idea of a correspondence in the Hebrew calendar, which is rooted in the sequence of days in the festival of Passover. So Passover actually, in some ways, is the first festival that we celebrate as Jews. Rosh Hashanah is considered the new year for the world, but in some ways the new year for the Jewish people begins in this month. The first month we count is actually the month we're about to approach, Nisan, which is the month in which Passover occurred. And Passover really begins the story of the Jewish people. So it makes sense that it happens in Nisan, Passover, because that's when we were born as a people. We escape Egypt and we become a nation as we walk out of that sea. It's almost like seen as a national birth at that point, with the waters breaking, so to speak. And so Passover, it sets the scene for the rest of the year. And so there's very much an idea that everything goes according to the beginning. Everything is almost encoded within the beginning. And encoded within Passover is all the other festivals. So have a listen to this. Here's what he says. So he noted that the days of Passover will always, in every year, have within them a reference to the observance of other major holidays. So the holiday, whose major theme, by the way, is order, Seder. We sit on the Seder table, which means order. It gives us a hint of the order of other festivals. Now, let me explain what I mean. You're probably thinking, Ollie, what on earth are you talking about? Let me explain. So, whatever day of the week is the first day of Passover, which would be Aleph in Hebrew. Aleph is A, right? The number one. Will also be the Tav. What do I mean by that? The day on which Tisha B'Av will fall in that year. Tisha B'Av, the first letter of the Tisha B'Av, is Taf, right? And Tisha B'Av is the national day of mourning, which usually occurs in August in the summer, where we commemorate the destruction of the temple and all the subsequent suffering that occurred. So understand that whichever day the first day of Passover falls, which is Aleph is number one, then Tisha B'Av that day, that year, will also fall on the same day. Okay? So if Passover starts on a Sunday, then Tisha B'Av will also fall on a Sunday that year. And then we get to the second day. Whatever day of the week is Bet is the second letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and the second day of Passover will correspond to Shin. That's the second last letter in Hebrew. What does Shin correspond to? What's the first letter of another big Jewish holiday? Shavuot, the festival of the giving of the Torah, celebrated for 1 day in Israel, 2 days in the diaspora. As per the first example, if Passover begins on a Sunday and its second day is Monday, then Tisha B'Av that year will fall on a Sunday and Shavuot will fall on a Monday. Let's now continue the sequence. Whatever is the third day of Passover in any given year, the Gimel, in our example, Tuesday, will be the Resh. That is, what does Resh stand for? Rosh Hashanah. Incredible. So if the third day of Passover is a Tuesday, then that means that you can know that this year Rosh Hashanah is going to also fall on a Tuesday. Now, whatever is the fourth day of Passover, in our example, it will be Wednesday, will be Kuf, which is the day of Kriyat HaTorah, more commonly referred to as Simchat Torah. So you can know that the fourth day of Passover will be the day on which Simchat Torah occurs. Then you have the fifth day, whose Atbash mate is a Tzadi, and that will always be matched by the Tzom, the fast of Yom Kippur, per our example, on Thursday. So again, if you know that the fifth day of Passover is a, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, then you know that Yom Kippur that year is going to fall on a Thursday. The sixth day is Vav, which will be partnered with the letter Peh. That will coincide with the day on which Purim will occur that year. Amazing. So that will mean that if the sixth day is a Friday of Passover, then Purim that year will also fall on a Friday. Now, when Rabbi Yosef Karo wrote this hundreds of years ago, that was it in terms of his calendar correspondence. Passover biblically, however, is a 7-day holiday. So it serves as a basis for the dates of other major moments on the calendar, but the Shulchan Aruch was only able to offer 6 illustrations. But there's a missing 7th one. What could that be? For centuries, we needed that to suffice, even as we wondered why there was no link to an additional holiday corresponding to the concluding day of Passover. But by way of the letters used for the first 6, we wish there would be a connection between the letter Zion, 7, and its Atbash mate, its equivalent, which would be the letter Ayin. And then, miraculously, something happened. The State of Israel was established in 1948, and its day of establishment was the 5th of Iyar, and it became a holiday. That day was Yom Ha'atzmaut, Independence Day for the Jewish people. The miraculous re-establishment of the Jewish people to their homeland. Have you ever seen a people be exiled, scattered all over the world for thousands of years, and then re-establish sovereignty in their ancient homeland? It is Yom Ha'atzmaut, Independence Day for the Jewish people. Atzmaut, in Hebrew, begins with the letter Ayin. So Zion corresponds to Ayin. And here's where it gets crazy. It is a truth revealed by the calendar that in any and every year, whatever is the 7th and concluding day of Passover, the Zion, is also the Ayin, the day of the week on which we celebrate Yom Ha'atzmaut. The 7th day of Passover will be the day of the week on which Yom Ha'atzmaut will fall each year. The calendar continues to speak, Rabbi Bech concludes. True, it might not be on the same level of revealed and open miracles as the 10 plagues and the splitting of the sea. But in some ways, I actually think it's even of a deeper revelation to see that it's encoded into our festivals. This is just another example of the remarkable, infinite depth of the Torah and our tradition, and how it has ripple effects and more revelations as we continue on our journey through history. Just a moment. Have you ever heard someone say, I've got no problem with Judaism or Jews, it's Israel I've got a problem with? Well, we've just created our most important documentary yet, called Zionism and Judaism, The False Separation. Have a watch of the trailer, and if you want to watch the full thing, just click on the link below in the video description. This one's important. I'm not against Judaism, I'm just against Zionism.
It's not Jewish, it's Zionism.
Judaism and Zionism are completely separate.
You know, Judaism is a faith, Israel is a state.
You can be Jewish without being a Zionist.
Zionism and Judaism is totally diametrically opposed.
I'm sure you've heard this before, from protesters, from politicians, from even well-meaning people trying to navigate the Israel-Palestine debate. But I'm here to tell you that this separation is complete nonsense. It's a comfortable lie. The kind of lie that sounds intelligent but collapses the moment you actually open this book, the Torah, the Bible, and study Judaism on its own terms. In this JTV Plus documentary, we're going to tackle this myth head on. We'll actually look inside the Torah and see how in the very first book, Genesis, there's no mention of law or religion. It's all centered on the promise of a specific land to a specific nation. We'll trace how Judaism, not modern politics, but Judaism itself, is structured around one obsessive, relentless, undeniable claim: the land of Israel belongs to the Jews. We'll reveal why the building of a nation in the land of Israel is an indispensable part of the project of Judaism. Why Judaism is not a religion, it's the divine project of a nation in a land. We'll discover how the Torah preemptively answered the colonization accusation that wouldn't fully materialize for another 3,000 years. We'll explore why, if the land is so central, Jews had to spend thousands of years in global exile. We'll unpack what Zionism actually means, and how anti-Zionism doesn't just contradict Israeli policy, it contradicts the fundamental architecture of Judaism itself. For some people, this is going to be uncomfortable viewing, but by the end, we'll prove beyond any reasonable doubt that Judaism and Zionism are inseparable. To watch this JTV Plus documentary and access much more premium content, click on the link in the video description.